Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome everyone to the CHRONICLES. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in King of Prussia. Yeah, I came up the road a little bit so I could get the people all around being able to know what's going on. Like I said, I go for different locations. I go check out people in different areas because we got issues everywhere, and I want to know how the people feel out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some special guests up in here tonight, but you know who I am. My name is Mike Hurt. I am the host of the Hurt Chronicles. Right to the side of me, we have Miss Melissa Pugh.
Hello.
And next to her, we have Mr. Mike Blackwell.
Absolutely.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm very well.
That's good. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic for tonight is depression in our lives. Depression in our life goes in a lot of different ways. We can be affected directly, indirectly, the way of the world, the way of our family, our friends, and it can affect us in a lot of different ways. So what I want to do was, I was going to have someone professional there, but you don't realize that wellness right now is in demand. I mean, you try to go get a therapist, you're going to get on a wait list right now. I'm just letting you know. So, it was kind of last minute because I put this together, so I knew that it was a chance that they wouldn't get back to me. But what I try to do is I try to put some audio together to give us a little idea of what, depression is and things that we go through when we have this type of illness towards depression. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let Melissa speak for a second towards letting people know who you are before we get into your story, and then you can pass the ball over to Mike just to give an introduction of who you are before we get into the topic.
I'm Melissa Pugh, aka Missy. Guess that's it.
Hey, I'm Mike Blackwell. Glad I was invited to be here and ready to go.
There we go. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we go any further, I'm going to play this audio because this is going to set the table towards a depression. So, ladies and gentlemen, just listen up to this audio before we start the show on what is depression.
It is estimated that 5% of adults experience depression. But because it is a mental illness, it is a little bit harder to understand than, let's say, having a cold. The key is to separate out depression from occasional feelings of sadness or stress. Almost everyone feels down once in a while, like when losing a job, having an argument, or even witnessing a stretch of bad weather. However, these feelings come and go. They respond to ongoing changes, while depression tends to feel heavy and constant. At times, it can be difficult to identify depression in someone, as it is a disorder defined by thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. But there are some common symptoms of depression, such as prolonged periods of having no motivation or interest in things, changes in appetite, feeling worthless or guilty, sleeping either too much or too little, low energy, and difficulty concentrating, avoiding social interactions, or recurring thoughts of self-harm or death. Those who have experienced depression might have heard comments like, snap out of it, brighten up already, go and do something about it. However, it is important to remember that depression is a disorder with a biological basis, along with psychological and social implications. It is not simply a weakness that somebody can get over or laziness that one can shrug off. Depression seldom gets better without treatment and may get even worse. Fortunately, there are many different ways of treating depression, such as therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, joining a support group, or at times, simply confiding in a trusted friend or a family member. Although there is no quick fix for depression, the effort is completely worth it. And you may come out of it perhaps even stronger. For more information on depression, as well as treatment options, please visit www.psychiatry.org.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I played that because I wanted to get the ball rolling because I am not a professional therapist towards when it comes to depression and that type of mental illness. So I wanted a professional to break down the definition of depression. Now, when it comes to depression, it comes from a state where, obviously, a state that you're in. Now, a lot of us at times in our lives, we get depressed, but we cannot quickly call that depression. It has to be a state that you're in for a period. Like she was saying that if you're not eating and you're not sleeping, or you're getting too much sleeping, or your mood swings are just down. You can be in a happy place and you're still feeling kind of down and out. So that's why I wanted her to speak upon it so you guys can get an idea of when it comes to medically, being diagnosed of being depressed in a depressive state. So knowing that, Melissa, when you heard her speak about what depression is, in your world, indirectly or directly, how do you feel when you hear that?
Well, I agree 100% with what she said. So in my world, I've experienced several stages of depression. One being where I would sleep, I wasn't eating, and then it later changed to mood swings. This is throughout my life. It wasn't always the same. However, depression in a lot of people is different. You can't always identify what it is. You just feel sadness, or you can feel like life is changing and you can't put your finger on exactly what is happening in your life.
Well, let me ask you something, Melissa. When you said you were feeling that, did anything trigger that at that time? Because what she also was saying that there could be moments in our lives that we might lose our job, or we lost some money, or something financially is going on in our world, or a death event. Some type of situation and moment that's negative that might be a trigger. Was there a trigger for you at that time?
So I've had, as I said, several different experiences with depression. I'll speak on something I went through recently. Right now in my life, I feel like everything is going well. I had a marriage, I had friends, I had a job, I had everything that I thought I wanted, right? Then when you get what you thought you wanted, you have something which my husband calls Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you already have everything, what's next? So I went through a period where I was depressed for days, and I could not get through it because something was wrong with me, but I couldn't identify what was wrong with me. Everything in my life was good. However, I was sad. So what I had to do was remove myself from social media, because a lot of people, when they're depressed, they stay on social media, which can add to their depression. Because then you're outside looking in at other people's lives and you feel they have it all, and then you start comparing it, so you're like, well, why am I not happy? So I had to remove myself from social media to kind of figure out what I was going through. And basically what I was going through, I was stagnant in my life because I had achieved everything that I wanted. And so most people have goals, and once they reach the goal, they're looking for the next high, the next high, the next high. So that's what I recently experienced.
Well, let me ask you something, because it seems like you're getting a visual as you're speaking, and I can feel that. So what we don't want to do, I don't want to put you too much down that pathway. So what I'm going to, no, I just want to tell you, what I want to do is that I want to tap on it, continue it, tap on it, continue it.
Okay.
So at that time in your life, you were saying that things were working out. Everything that you wanted in your life, it was happening, but you were still in this pit. Now let me ask you this: your upbringing growing up, how was your household? Was that a loving household that you grew up in?
So I feel like in older times, I feel like you could have been in a house with a mother and father and they took care of you. It's not necessarily something that you always were told, I love you, or you're all hugging and kissing each other. I tell everybody I had the best childhood, the absolute best childhood. There were 5 girls. We had our mom and dad. They took us on every trip. Our Christmases were off the chain, but I won't say I grew up in a loving house, because things that I may need now, I don't necessarily feel like I got from the environment I grew up in.
So let me know if I'm wrong when I say this. Melissa, if I was to say to you, are you a people pleaser?
Me?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so you define that you're not a people pleaser.
I'm not.
Okay. Do you protect the people you love?
Absolutely.
Even if you get scarred?
That's a loaded question.
The only reason I said that, because
That's a loaded question.
the only reason I said that, and this is no disrespect to your story, but what I got was you made it very clear that my upbringing was a very happy upbringing, but you also identified, well, what's happening in your world today. You realized what you felt like you were missing when you were younger, and you left that open for you. So what I'm saying today, obviously, what you're getting today is everything that you dreamed of.
So let me clarify a couple things. First, I'm going to touch the people pleaser thing, and definitely not. But what I do believe, and I do believe that depression is brought on by, I'm a person who loves, and when I love, I allow people, I'm constantly there for people. Anybody I love, I'm constantly there for. However, the issue becomes, and what you have to learn is, when you take on other people's issues, you yourself become depressed because they're dumping into you, and you have nowhere to release it.
Now, Mike, see, that's where I got from this story.
So, yes, I was very much not so a people pleaser, but I love who I love.
And you protected
And
the
I
people
protect
that
who
you
I
love.
protect.
And sometimes we do that to a fault,
Correct.
where we get scarred along the way. So as life goes on and start to treat us a certain way, and we see the sun, and we see the fruit, and you're saying to yourself, man, I thought I grew up with this, but there was something that was missing. And then you revert back to your childhood, and actually the stuff from your childhood is what triggers when you're in good times of today.
Yeah, to a degree, because as a little girl, and I'm sitting amongst men, so you're not going to really understand this part of it.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Little girls, you grow up, you're going to get married, you're going to have this happy life, you're going to have children, you're going to have a job, you're going to be rich, you're going to have everything. And then when you get it all, you realize that that very thing that you wanted was just a thing. It's a thing. When you want to be married, you want to be happily married. Married is a lot of work. So a lot of things that people think that they want, especially when we're young, when we grow up, when we get it, you have to realize you have to maintain it to keep it.
You want more?
Well,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna come back to you, Melissa. Because we got a handful of where Melissa's coming from, and I'm glad we did, because this is why we are here. Mike, we spoke earlier. Mike, you've let me know that you've been blessed. You haven't had too much depression in your life. You might have had certain moments of being depressed, but you never stayed in a state going off of what you were telling me. So instead of me telling you your story, I want you to tell us your story.
Well, you know, I went through trials and tribulations in my life. I've been through depressive situations. I didn't see it as depression. If I felt bad, I just go downstairs and lift some weights, or I play the drums, or I go running. And in retrospect, you know, if you diagnosed, I might have been depressed, but I just didn't. I don't know if I.
Well, Mike, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm glad you just said what you just said. If you heard what he just said, that when he felt as though something was coming on, you just said you lift weights, you went to walk, you did something with activity to not allow yourself to get into a funk. Would I be right with that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you,
Oh,
but when, I just wanted the people who were looking and watching to know that when those moments come on, that doing positive activities help towards them.
Yeah, doing something for me. But you know, sometimes even today, I don't feel like getting out of bed. Do I see that as depression? See it as I just don't feel like getting out of bed. Then I do get out of bed and go do something physical to get my blood flowing and you know, so I can get out of that momentary funk.
Right.
And I'm blessed that I can do that because I know a lot of people can't do that. Once you're sitting in the pit, you're stuck in the pit.
Right.
Because you don't have those outlets.
Right.
Everybody don't have outlets. I'm just fortunate to have outlets.
Right. Now, Melissa and Mike, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play another audio because, like I said, we don't have a professional on board, but it's very important for me to play certain audio so we can get a more of an understanding about this thing called depression.
We are the professionals.
The generally accepted statistic is that women are twice as likely to suffer from depression as men. I don't think this is correct. I think that the signs and symptoms of depression in men are very different than those in women. In spite of great sadness and pessimism, men tend not to communicate their distress. They go it alone, as they do in so many areas of their lives. And they turn to self-medication, sometimes with excessive TV, excessive sexual activity, or excessive drinking as symptoms of their distress. There is no question that depression can be fatal in both sexes, including, obviously, in men. People lose their appetite, they can't sleep, they don't take action against threats in the environment, and I think that there is no question that depression, which by the way also depresses the action of the immune system and makes people prone to infection, is a very serious warning that a fatal outcome is a possibility. So depression should never be underestimated. A very interesting thing about depression was commented on, in fact, by my father, who was a physician years ago, when he said that the time to be most on guard against suicide is in the partially treated depressed patient. He pointed out that when they're profoundly depressed, they can take action even to end their own lives. But as they improve, they begin to see ways to carry out their very sad objectives. And I think that that's reflected in many of the warnings that some of our antidepressants, when we start to give them, result in suicide in patients unexpectedly. I think it may be due to this general principle that the depressed patient in treatment has to be very carefully watched because this is time of special vulnerability.
Now, like I said, I'm going to be doing this throughout the show because we're hearing it from doctors and people who treat people who are in that depressive state. Now, what I got from what she just said there is very important. When you're depressed and you have some of these mood swings, and some of those mood swings could be not eating. You're not feeling well. Like you said, when we go back to not sleeping, you're just out of sorts. Well, what starts to happen is the body starts to react to that. Like she was saying, that you can start to add toxins that start to grow in you that is not good. Or if you start to drink more excessively, or if you start to take medicated drugs. And then not only that, but the people that you think that got it going on the most are the ones sometimes that are suffering the most. I mean, we got an example of DJ Twitch. I mean, this man was like, he was an inspiration to kids and older people, and he was on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and he had podcasts, he had all kinds of positive things going on, beautiful family, and he took his life. And we look back on it and say, makes sense to me.
Why? Yeah, why?
So, Melissa, going off of what you were saying, this is very important because you're screaming to us right now. When you tell your story, do you feel like it takes you back to that place, or do you feel like you're still working on that?
I don't think it takes me back to that place at all, because I have a different mindset now. I'm not the type of person who sits in depression. I recognize when I'm depressed, I'll talk to my husband, I'll talk to those closest to me to get me out of it. I do not stay in it. I also listen to motivational things. I listen to a lot of Steve Harvey. And the funny thing about that is I couldn't stand Steve Harvey. I couldn't. But if you listen to his motivational speeches,
Right.
he's very, very uplifting.
Yes.
So I don't stay in a depressive state at all. I remove myself from the thoughts. I deal with them. I acknowledge what they are, and then I release them. That's different from what it used to be. It's growth for me. But I realized I was taking on too many people's problems.
Now, with you saying that, and I'm glad you said that you go to other places. Now, I made a point on this show to make sure that I play some positivity music from time to time. You know what I mean? Because although we can go down there and talk about it, but we always want to look at that cup that's half full. If you got an opportunity to get up and have another chance of making what you thought was doing was wrong or right, then do it. There are people who wake up to gospel. Some people wake up to party music. Whatever you got to do to get your spirit going, or you personally, that means read the Bible, but that means talk to your husband, talk to your girlfriend. You do what you got to do to get yourself up. Now, Mike, going back to you, saying that you've been blessed and you really have been hit with that state of mind of depression. You're a black man, just like me.
Yes.
And you know that when we turn on the news, black men get you down every day.
Yes.
And we're not saying the black woman ain't, and other people are not. But it's just that when we are seen on the camera, if we're not dribbling that basketball, or throwing that football, or being some type of entertainment, we're looked upon in a negative light.
Yes.
And that can play tricks on us mentally in so many ways.
Yes.
So how do you feel when you see that? And how do you deal with that? Because like I said, you said you had success when you walk, lift weights, but how do you deal with it in a whole?
Well, it's sad what I see it here today. And for me, I do a lot of reading, I listen to a lot of politics, and I've come to accept the world as it is, not the way I would like it to be. The world is racist and all that. That's the way it is. And I don't live in a European state of mind.
Now, Mike, I'm not knocking how you feel what you say.
Yes.
But the only thing is it's unfortunate that there's a small minority of bad people that make it bad for the good people.
Masses.
So I don't want people to think that when we speak, we're speaking about all. We're talking about a small few minority.
Yes.
And that's what's being exploited in the news towards that.
That is true.
So go ahead.
Yeah, that is true. Just for me, like I said, I'm fortunate that I was able to see reality the way it is, and I'm not confused or dismayed about certain things in the world, and I'm not trying to live in a European society. I don't live by that. So it kind of freed me personally.
So when you speak, you're speaking on, I had a show a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about how slavery affected African Americans.
Yes.
So when you speak upon that, you're actually going back to the original set of this country towards African Americans, that what we had to endure during that time. And it's amazing how that thing is still showing signs of today. So I'm glad you spoke about that.
It's designed to put us in depression.
Yes.
Because we're trying to operate in a world that's really not ours.
Now, Melissa, I want you to hear this right here, and I want you, if you can, I want you to respond to this, because I think this is something that is needed to be heard.
Men. Because men are more likely to fight their way from depression to anger. Because depression is not a good look on a brother. That's how we say, that's what we think. And so while people will accept us as women kind of laying back and, oh, I was me, and they think that there's something feminine about that, and it's not, it's still depression. But our cultural perspectives don't accept that from men. So depression can hide among women with social stereotypes about them being emotional, but it can't hide with men because they'll look weak. So he has to fight his way up off of that depressed couch. And the only energy he can use to defend himself against your attack on his masculinity is to fight his way out of depression into a fury. And here we are, with our men dropping like flies, with life expectancy at the bottom levels in this country. Because anger is literally shredding their body and their immune system and their productivity, which is also so related to how many men define themselves. So anger snatches both their productivity and their physical strength. God! We gotta do something.
Did you hear that, Melissa? Now, the reason I'm bringing this to you towards that, we men know how we feel. But when you are our wives, our girlfriends, our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, and you see us going out there dealing with the world, and you see us doing things that are not becoming of us, that's not helping us, what do you say to that?
So honestly, this is something that Bernard actually had to bring to my attention. I'm just going to get 100% real. Because I go through my own things in life, and men walk around and carry whatever and don't necessarily show you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say we don't have as much empathy because, I mean, that might be the wrong word to use. We're not looking at you like you have struggles because you don't show that you have struggles.
Oh, see, oh.
So let me get that. So when I'm having bad days and I'm going to him for things, he doesn't ever show that he has bad days. You know, and he is very much an optimistic. So for me, I'm like, this dude's not relatable. You know, and then he had to break it down to me, you know, I had to be soft skills, right? Everybody who knows me, I'm a little tough, so he had to work on it a little bit. But I think women hear this, that we have to be the soft spot, but we can't be something you're not showing us you need.
Oh, man, Mike, what she's saying is real.
That is true, real.
And this actually goes back to the original sin of this country. And I'm gonna piggyback off of exactly what you're saying. When we were in the cotton fields back in slavery, the slave master grabbed our wives and took them into their house and raped them. We had to endure it because if we didn't, everybody would die. So I go back to them because there were times in our lives as Black men that we hold that thing and we are told, don't you cry, don't you show. Because if you do that, you're weak. So going back off of what you're saying, Melissa, that man is your rock. And I understand that you want him to be relatable towards what you're feeling. My wife tells me, you're not a good caretaker. and I say to her, you're right, but I will get the best doctors and empty my bank account to make sure you're good.
Can I say something in regards to what you're saying? I actually had a conversation earlier to pull back in this whole depression thing. Most of us feel like when we're depressed, our spouse, our friends, our children, our parents are supposed to bring us through that. And the thing is, these people can't bring you through depression.
No.
But you hold resentment because you feel they're supposed to. And what I had to teach myself is depression is a personal thing. You can say to your spouses that I need you to be this, that, and third, but it's something you have to navigate alone. And you can't look to the people, the very people that you think are supposed to rescue you, because it's really not their job. They're just supposed to be there for you as a listening ear, but it's really a personal thing. And one thing I had to teach myself is, because again, I'm at different stages of my life, I expected the people who were around me to pull me through, and what it really did was coddle me. It helped me not to be, it made me very dependent on people. I was very dependent on people, scared to be alone. You know, and when I mean by alone, is scared to walk this road of life with just me. And now I'm in a different place in my life. I love my husband, I love my kids, I love my family, but I realized that internal peace is the thing that pulls you from depression. It's nobody else.
It's funny you say that because I work with a guy who's recovering drug addict, and got himself in the church, and he's doing better, and he's actually counseling others. And I said to him, when you were out there doing that thing, I mean, not to trigger you back there, but how did you get from there to here? He said, my pastor, my wife, my kids, everybody was, and they didn't do anything. I wasn't here. It had to come from me. So he told me this is what happened that triggered him. He said he went home, he had his fix, and his granddaughter came to him and said, Papa, look at what I made. Look at this picture I drew. And he's like, no, I'll look at it later. He folded it up and put it in his pocket. So he ran off to a hotel to do his drugs. So he was looking for a match. When he went in his pocket, he pulled out that picture. And he said, that's what triggered me. That's what triggered me. It was at the height of him at his addiction. And then all of a sudden, something normal that had so much essence to it just made him say, what the heck am I doing? So when I hear what you're saying, that's the first thing that came to my mind. You're absolutely right. You have to look into the light.
Right.
You're thankful for the people around you because, tell you the truth, when we acted up, there's a lot of people who love us can say, I'm out. And they would be rightfully so if they didn't love me. Hear me when I say this. Because this is why we got to figure out if we have someone that's close to us that's sick and need help. Because you can look at me, but you're not really looking at me. You're looking at my expectations, but you're not looking at what I'm going through. And again, maybe it is my fault that I'm not sharing with you. Like you were saying, Bernard might not be sharing because he's trying to hold this front. And especially he knows that you're going through it. So knowing that you have loved ones around you, like children, how do you teach them? And how do you keep up a front for them, or do you be real with them?
So when I'm going through depression, I really just remove myself from everybody. I mean, minus Bernard, because I shouldn't say that. Like, I really remove myself from, I talk to my oldest every morning. I talk to one of my best friends every morning. I talk to certain people every morning. And when I'm going through something, I kind of get the warnings back, but I want my own time. I just remove myself from, but just, it's taken me a long time to get here.
Now, this is another audio I want you guys to hear. I don't know if you know, but was that Miss America who committed suicide?
Yeah.
So it affected this young lady, and I want you guys to hear.
This is the Black News Panel. 15 minutes. Share with everyone. Finally, news that speaks to us.
Cheryl White says she wrestled with depression for years. A recent episode happening around the same period, former Miss USA, Chesley Christ, took her own life.
I was really emotional because I haven't felt there. I felt those things, like I felt overwhelmed, and I've been in a position where I have felt like I can't control my thoughts some days, or I don't feel anything some days.
White says she identified with Chris after following her win at Miss USA. They're both Black female attorneys, close in age and high performers. But what she didn't know at the time, they both battled depression too.
I actually have a friend that's a therapist that we went on vacation, and she's like, I think you're depressed. And I was like, wow, I think you know what you're talking about. This is a person that's professional, and I was still not willing to accept it because I just it didn't seem like something that was for me.
Eventually, challenges during law school pushed White to seek help. And within a week of Chris' suicide, she felt compelled to write about her personal experience with depression, publicly, for the first time.
I just felt like I wanted to be able to speak for women and let them know that they're not alone, and specifically Black women, that they're not alone in this battle.
Nadia Edwards studies Black women and depression. She says accessing affordable health care is a major challenge that impacts Black women receiving help. Plus, stigmas.
So individuals not really feeling safe and being adequately diagnosed, or even feeling safe and entering the space without a diagnosis.
For Black women, research shows depression is more likely to be chronic, severe, and immobilizing compared with white counterparts. Black women are less likely to seek or receive adequate mental health treatment, often delayed treatment until symptoms are severe, and less likely to receive adequate amounts of treatment because providers detect their depression less often and misdiagnose it. And loved ones may not always spot symptoms either, likely due to cultural factors at play, like the Black superwoman schema.
It's really just saying that, hey, as a Black woman, I have to be Superwoman. I am Superwoman. I am deciding to take on all challenges. I am handling them all myself.
Despite that, Edwards says she's noticed more Black women seek help through the pandemic, even if it's simply to improve their mental wellness and gain a fresh perspective.
A lot of times I feel like in the Black community, we try to encourage one another. We say, you know, well, you should just pray, or it's going to be okay. And the thing about it is that if you don't know how to make yourself okay, but you're used to always making everybody and everything okay, then it just becomes hard because it becomes a problem that you can't solve.
The best that family members can continue to do for their loved ones is to do those check-in, the phrase like checking in with strong friends, really holding space for people, inviting them into your life, inviting them to be vulnerable.
Did you hear the Superwoman part? Did you hear the Superwoman part? Because when I heard that story, I was thinking about what you were gonna bring to the table tonight. Because you didn't seem like someone that has a story. And now I get it. You got all these superheroes walking around with that shield of like, I'm good.
Not good.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay, you tell me.
There's a couple of things I don't agree with that she said. I do not think that most women who suffer from depression, given, doesn't matter, the Black woman, whatever race, most people deal with depression and suffer in silence because they don't think that anybody understands or anybody else has been through what they're going through. It's not that they're trying to be a superwoman, they just don't know who can relate with the feeling of what they're going through.
Now, when you say that, and I'm trying to be as sensitive to this as
No,
possible.
be
No,
blunt.
I'm gonna be blunt. I'm gonna be blunt, but it's also sensitivity because everybody's story is different. When I think about the Black woman, I was raised by a single Black woman, and she went through hell. And the front she had to put up for her kids was amazing because she didn't want us to see what was going on behind that door.
Right.
So the only reason I'm emphasizing the Black woman for this moment is because when you look at statistics, they're the ones that are not married. A lot of a heavy percentage of them not married, raising kids by themselves. And I don't know if I can't speak for a woman, but I can't imagine a woman having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids and is looking to take care of them with very little support. So when you were saying about that, I'm not trying to make it a Black woman thing. I was just saying that I emphasize a little bit for the Black woman because I was raised up around a Black woman and I see that, but I can't speak for your story though.
Well, I was a single mom. I'm only speaking from my perspective. I'm not speaking from everybody's perspective.
Right.
But what I'm familiar with and with, the people I interact with, a lot of people are not suffering in silence because of a superwoman. They don't necessarily, like my friends have told me, why do you want to bother you? Depression can become a burden. And so what I always tell my friends or anybody that I'm close to or family-wise, if you're going through something, I'm gonna go through it with you. However, I do make it so I no longer allow what they're no longer allow what they're going from to be poured into me. I immediately have to release that because I can't drain myself any longer. But I do always want people who know that I'm close to know, or even if we're not close and you're going through something, you do need somebody to talk to. You definitely do. I say it's a personal thing, but some things you have to talk about, but the solution in getting through it is a personal journey.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Mike, I want you to piggyback off what she just said. She was making it very clear that in order for her to be okay for somebody else, she's got to make sure she's good. And I've always posted that. Like, I cannot be nothing to nobody if I'm not taking care of myself. So when you hear her speak upon others who have issues, how do you deal with that when you hear her story that somebody around you is yearning for some help, but you might not be in the greatest shape yourself at that moment?
To help them.
Well, it's your choice.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have to help them, but your heart might want to help them.
But yeah, well, one thing, like, I'm concerned about, I know there's all kind of women, like women, like, different, very different. And like for me, I do know my life is okay. When I get involved with other people, they have issues, I get depressed, taking on everybody else's problems.
Well, Mike, and I know what you mean,
Yes.
but when you say different how?
Different way.
You said Black women and Black men are different. Tell me.
No, I'm saying, my concern, like she said, all women, not just black women. But my concern is black women and black men. Because we come from a different mold and we're going through a different experience.
Yes, and the only reason I'm checking you on that because people who are looking, I want them to follow where you're going with that towards it being different.
Right, yeah, because we have a different journey than white women, everybody else, all the other women. So I define.
Why do you think that?
Well, historically, where we've been.
But the thing about it is that, and I always say this to my kid, that in order for us to go forward, we got to know where we came from. But at the same time, I cannot allow what happened with my ancestors keep me down too. Because if that's the case, I can make an excuse that you ain't hiring me because of black, you ain't doing because this, you ain't doing. If I go by that template, I'll never get ahead.
You know, but you still can't put it aside. You do have to realize that, accept that, and understand it. That's when I see it. I've come to understand the reality of the world I live in. And that's the reality. And let me tell you a story, because something happened in my life years ago. I never attributed it to depression. It was just something I was going through. I was married for 8 years. At the end of my marriage, it was getting screwed. It's all screwed up. And as a man, I'm quiet, I keep everything in. I was stressing because I was in a place that I didn't want to be. And in retrospect, the stress turned into depression because I'm in a situation I really don't want to be in. So as a man, not talking about what I'm going through, it manifested itself, the depression, and I was getting spots in my head.
That's what she was talking about, the toxins when you hold that thing.
Yeah, I kept it in.
Yes.
I didn't let it out. And I was getting perfectly round circles in my hair. Like as smooth as a baby's bottom. There was no peach fuzz, there was nothing. So in retrospect.
Now, you know, Mike came in here and said, I'm happy to lucky guy.
He said he doesn't.
And you know what happened, Mike? I'm gonna tell you what just happened. We opened the door. By the conversation we are having, or door was open. I'm looking at you, Mike, different than I did 10 minutes ago. Because you opened the door. Can you relate to that, Melissa, when you're talking to people and you get around certain people, that certain people can open doors that make you trigger a certain.
You rethink things.
Where you're at mentally with that when it comes to being depressed?
I don't get depressed often anymore. That's my prior life. And I mean, I did recently because I want more.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Now, the only reason I'm saying this is because obviously I'm glad you said what you just said. I'm not that no more. There are people who are looking, are in that state. And they're saying, Melissa, what did you do?
So I bought this book because I went through a serious depression. Because this was a couple of years ago, and
Well, first and foremost, what's the name of the book?
I'm going to say.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
But I'm going to start how I got to it.
Okay.
So I went through a serious depression, and it was depression of expectation. I expected my life to be this, and my life was this. Why did my life end up this? And my life was supposed to be like this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not a person who takes medication. I'm not saying anyone should not take medication. I do believe that some people need to be on medication to help them. You know, my sister was bipolar. She took medication. I definitely believe in medication, but I do not believe in it for myself. So if I'm going through something, I have to figure it out. And so I was going through this really bad depression because my life was not equaling what I wanted as a little girl. Like, why isn't this happening? Why are all these things happening? So I went to a store specifically just to find something, and I found this book. It's called Expectation Hangover. It's by Christine Hassler, Hassler. It costs $7.98.
Yeah, beat the price.
And this book tells you you have to let go of the life that you pictured for yourself and and live the life that you're living now.
Yeah.
And once you live the life that you have right now in front of you, you become so much more free. I also spent a lot of time with myself, and I had to realize that we're all looking to be happy. What's happy? What's happy? And I told my sister that, and when I was talking to her, I'm like, wow, I just taught myself something. We're all looking to be happy. And so I asked her, when you get that thing that you're calling happy, are you going to be happy? And this book taught me that happiness is not a thing. You're not going to be happy when you get married. You're not going to be happy if you find a new friend, or if you have a baby. Those are all things that you have to maintain. Happiness is internal peace.
Yes.
And you have to do everything to keep that peace. I wake up every day and I tell, Bernard, don't start my day bad. Like if we say we're starting our day, don't start my day bad. Like anybody can start it. Don't start my day bad, because the way you start your day is how your day goes on.
Yes, yes.
And so I always try to make sure that I wake up with a different attitude. So sometimes I wake up and I'm evil, and be like, you start my day, but it's really in how you start your day. But getting back to the book, I really recommend this. I've given it to quite a few people, and I'm like, give me my book back. Give me my book back. But it's definitely helped me understand that I have to be happy with my life today.
Right, so expectation hangover.
Yeah, Christine Hassler.
Now, the thing about what you're saying is so powerful, is because we all look for others to try to make us happy. Mm-hmm. And then I develop an expectation of others towards us.
Right.
Like, for instance, like when you get married. Yeah. And I think marriage is the biggest expectation, because now you're sharing your world with someone else. Right. So your mom has been used to making biscuits and then making that sweet meatloaf and everything that came on that Sunday. Yeah. And then all of a sudden your wife is not doing that. So hold up. My mom did this, my mom did that. Hold up. This is not your mom. It's not your mom. And the same when it comes from being daddy. I'm not your daddy. I'm not your daddy.
Can you mom?
You can't daddy. So there you go. But on that note, I'm going to play, like I said, I want to keep this energy level going from a standpoint of we cannot go anywhere or do anything without the power of God. God is so much in my life, man, that I am so grateful for him being there. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because there are times in your life when you're going right, and then all of a sudden somebody grabs you and takes you left. And then you look over your shoulder and you see what just happened over there to the right. You said, thank you, God. Thank you, God. The reason I'm playing this song is called Addictive Love by B.B. and C.C. Winans. This came out in the 90s. When I was at one of my lowest points, growing up as a young adult, songs like this from a spiritual, addictive love. And it's actually not looking at love towards others, but knowing that God loved you so much that he is like, you know how they say the footprints in the sand? And the word saying that on my worst times, there was only my footsteps. And he said, no, I was carrying you through that. So when you talk about that book, Melissa, it just worked, it opened that door for me to say what I just said. And you see what happens when you bring up stories and tell certain things you went through life. When you're around people that need help, or don't even need help, just need a kind word, it goes a long way. That's why I wanted to do this show, and I know that it would have helped even more if I had an expert here, but that's why I brought the audio, because the audio is adding to our conversation, because each one of us have different stories to tell towards this. Now, Melissa, when it comes to your husband that's over there, Bernard, let me ask you something. How much leeway did he give you when you were going through it? Because We all react different. You know, you say something to me, I might come back at you. Where, you know, how
A lot of people initially didn't know.
Oh, he just didn't know.
Like, because I didn't go to him and be like, I'm depressed.
Right.
They at my desk and this is to Steve Harvey. You know, and then when it got to the point he would come down and we would talk, that's when I would tell him, you know, but I really don't share anymore because it's an internal thing for me. And I don't think that that is for everybody. It's just where I am in my life.
Now, you said that when you listen to Steve Harvey, and I'm not taking away what you do to help, but the one thing we got to be careful of is man. And what I mean by man,
I want to.
okay. Because when you start idolizing man, I'm not saying you idolizing, but we have. When I'm saying we have to be, I'm not just saying man, just man in general.
Everybody got an opinion. All of them got an opinion.
I understand what you're saying. You're coming from a biblical.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I understand.
But I understand what you were saying too. Okay.
Okay, so I grew up in a church, and I'm just going to give you a brief summary. I grew up in a church in love with God. I used to write letters to God, like just completely God, right? Bible says, ask anything in Jesus' name and will be given. A lot of the stuff you read in the Bible, unless you're not taught, but the Bible also tells you to know the Bible for it, you know the word for yourself. I clung on that word. I clung, and I think this is a lot of what other people do. I don't cling to Steve Harvey. He just says some things to me that actually help, right? But one of the things I tell everybody is you're praying and you're stopping. You think that God is just going to make it work for you. He does not. So most people go through what they're going through for longer than they should because they're waiting for God to just send some miracle. That's not how it works. And I think we're not taught correctly in churches. We're supposed to pray and let it go. That's the worst thing you can tell anybody. You don't just pray and let it go because when it doesn't happen, you're mad at God. So I think a lot of stuff that we're being taught in churches, I had to reteach myself because it's just flat out not right. It's just not. And like, you have to know for yourself. You have to have a relationship for yourself and know exactly the higher being. This is what he does for me. You know what God does for you, and I know what God does for me. But what I know is I'm not supposed to just pray and let it go. I'm supposed to act.
Right. Now, you guys ever see the movie Get on the Bus? The one where Million Man March?
Washington, D.C.
They were going to D.C. You remember the Rock character? Rock. He was the father of one of his Muslim kid that was his Muslim son. And he didn't really, wasn't too happy of him taking that faith of being a Muslim. But the one thing I always remember him saying, he said, I don't care what faith that you are from. If it's something that's positive, that'll put you in a positive light where you're not hurting others and you're being good to others and there's respect, then I'm not knocking any religion, faith, as long as it's towards love.
Right.
Because sometimes you have people who are different faith and go different angles from different sides. I got to be careful towards judging that because they might have been growing up in that world. You know what I mean? And as long as they give it love, peace, and all that good stuff, that's good.
That's good.
So when we tapped onto the church and we tapped onto Steve Harvey, I just wanted to make it clear that if Steve Harvey is bringing joy and positivity,
let me be clear.
okay.
I don't listen to Steve Harvey every day. I can't remember the last time I listened to him.
Right.
He helped me during a period and with one or two. It wasn't like I was clinging to him.
Oh, no. And you know what it is? Sometimes I put too many periods on my words where I'm making it like, I wasn't trying to say that. I guess what I'm just trying to say is that anything in your life that brings you joy, and even if it's for a moment, there are people that come into your life for a moment that actually help.
Reasons in my lifetime. That's my
Look at this. You just go in scripture. So these
my favorite.
So these are things that help us. I remember somebody told me, man, how do I know if I found a good woman? Brother said to me, he said, brother, you find a woman that you can go through all 4 seasons, and you see each one of her seasons, and that gives you a good idea of what type of woman you got. That's what I was told. Because we all get new when the summer gets here. Different in the fall, different in the spring, winter. But if you can capture all and deal with all those, then that goes a long way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear from a celebrity, Ms. Taraji Henson.
What I find disturbing in our community, the African American community, is that we can talk about thyroid, we can talk about cancer, breast cancer, AIDS even, but we won't deal with the mental, and that's an issue. I struggle with depression and anxiety. I would like to say I realized it about 2 years ago. I noticed the mood swings, like, one day I'd be up and the next day I'd be down, feeling like I don't want to go out in public, almost agoraphobic, like, too much to deal with, feeling really awkward in my skin, feeling out of sorts, and just down, like Debbie down, like a dark cloud. And then there would be days where my brain would stop racing, I would think of the most worst scenarios in the world, which would heighten my anxiety. And, people were like, you just need to meditate and yoga and things like that. And I would do that, but my brain would still race. For me, there was no shame when I started to recognize it. It was like that I had to get some help because I'm the life of the party. And when I go dark, I go dark. I don't want to leave the house. And my friends started to notice me pulling back. And my father, who also had his issues with mental health, was really open about it, about his manic depression. But, as I think back, no one else really talked about it. It was hush hush, or, he's just crazy, or, things like that. Well, my dad, what he needed was a culturally competent therapist. And it's not even about the skin color or the race, it's about being culturally competent. And the reason why we can't find culturally competent therapists is because at home, in the African American community, we don't talk about mental health. It's a stigma surrounding it. And when you have no one to talk to with a person, what you do is they will try to self-medicate. We're just not allowed to be vulnerable. We have to be strong all the time. This is 400 years of damage, 400 years of trauma that we have not dealt with. And the way we deal with it is to be strong, put on a strong face. Nothing's wrong with you. You don't have mental health. You're not gay. You're not allowed to be human. That's a lie. We hurt and we're suffering. When you think about the trauma the African American community has been through since we've been brought to this country, we have not dealt with that. And then you get to these microaggressions that are happening right in front of our faces every day on television. Women's sons are being taken from them for no reason at all. And through that, we still have to be strong. How fucking dare you? How dare you? How dare you put that on me? I felt pressure to be strong as a Black woman in Hollywood because I kept hearing that term. Everyone kept saying, "You're a strong Black woman, strong Black woman." Then I realized that's a myth. It means that I'm sort of superhuman in some kind of way where nothing affects me, and that is so far from the truth. Sometimes I want to be strong. Sometimes the weight is just too much, and to put on that facade like you're strong all the time, this is exactly what it is, a facade. That's whack. You have to be human. And human means you're vulnerable. And human means you're layered. And being in an industry where, you're getting paid 52 cents on the dollar compared to a white man, things like that weigh on your soul. Because I'm an artist, and I'm an artist to the bone. So when I work, I give you all of me. And to know that all of me is only worth 52 cents on the dollar of what he's getting paid, that hurts. A lot of that stuff started weighing on me and sort of like dimming my lights. And I had to get control of it. And, what I started to do started making me feel good about it. It's not keeping it in and talking about it, because if you talk, maybe things will get fixed. I felt such a relief when I finally said it publicly. Like, I suffer from this. People just, it was an outpour. You know, it was an outpour. People, it was like they were like this, and all of a sudden they felt free to speak on it. When I got back above water and I started suffocating, so I was drowning. And once I released my truth, once I spoke my truth, I started to float back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's deep.
And see, the reason I played somebody who's a celebrity, because sometimes we get caught up on people who we think are living a certain type of lifestyle and not realizing that they're doing just as much as stuff that the average person who's working at McDonald's, Walmart, factory worker, office worker, and everything like that. So when you hear her speak, Melissa, what do you think about it? When you hear her speak, did you see that in her?
No,
No.
but then again, I don't know her personally, so I only see what on TV or in,
Right.
so I wouldn't see that. But the reality is, people would have never known I was depressed. You know, it's not always shown, and I was discussing before we came on the air with Mike. Sometimes you can't tell a person's depressed. They're functioning in their depression, and you would have no idea that the hell that they're going through.
Now, we're going to be wrapping the show up in about 5 minutes. So what I want to do in these last 5 minutes is concentrate on, we talked about how we got to certain places, how certain people are in certain states and everything like that. Knowing that the times that we're in, first and foremost, let's grab the mirror, look at ourselves first. I want you to answer the question for yourself first. And then once you answer the question for yourself, I want you to turn that mirror around and say, what do you say to your brother? What do you say to your sister? Like I give you a perfect example. I just said this a couple of weeks ago. We need to start checking up on our loved ones, our friends, even if it's saying good morning. How's everything been all right? We don't realize how just that little goes a long way. So, Mike, I'm going to start off with you. What is it that you think that when you look at yourself first, that you can do to continually improve your happiness where you're not allowing yourself to get in a depression state?
Well, I think for me, I had to learn me, know me, and know when I meet people or I'm in situations that could possibly bring me depression, I get away. That's what I learned from my marriage.
Right.
You know, don't fool myself.
Yes.
See toxicity for what it is and get away right away. I don't care what the woman look like, what she built like, what she's something. I don't care about all that. What money you got, I don't care about
Not
all
a little bit, Mike?
Well,
No, just a little bit. She can't wait. Oh,
it's okay.
right.
But once I hear toxicity, I said, that's not good for me. Might be good for you.
Don't give it to me.
No.
Don't give it to me, brother. I don't need those type of problems.
So you gotta know you.
Right.
What your limits are, and what your triggers are.
Right.
So
now that you know your triggers and you know how to protect yourself from being in the air. I remember somebody said that he was a virgin, and the guys were saying, well, won't you come out to the bar? And he said, how you think I stayed a virgin? I don't go to those places. Right. So don't put yourself in positions where it can be easy for you to fail. If you're around people that you know, like you said, trigger certain emotions in you,
And
you need to really, you're going to have to remove
like
yourself.
I don't listen to all this put me where I don't want to be. So I gotta get away from it. Listen.
Well, Melissa's got the book. She's the good one.
She got
She's a good guy. She's part of the good guy. Now that we know how to protect you, how do we look at the ones around us and look at the signs of saying that something ain't right?
And as you speak and you use the word depression, now I can look back on some things. Even currently, I know some people that don't want to go out, don't want to do nothing. And I always encourage them, come on, let's go. Oh, that's good. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Not seeing it as depression like I do now. Motherfucker might be depressed.
Well, the thing about it is that it's a difference between somebody being depressed and then being in a state of depression.
I don't know the difference. Because the only thing, like I told Melissa, I'm gonna say, what's wrong with you? You depressed? But you depressed.
The clock was the 12.
And she said, I'm not supposed to do it.
The clock was the 12. So it's okay, Mike, but I get what you're saying.
Yes.
So you're protecting first yourself towards them and not allowing yourself to be around that type of air. And then people who you love and you care about, you try to make sure you be a little air behind their back.
Yeah, what you need.
Pick up and everything. Melissa, can you follow that up? First, so you don't forget what I said. It was like, first look at yourself in the mirror. Oh, you remember that.
I also remember something else.
And Mike, thanks for coming with me.
Right. So what I would tell myself is just continue to be grateful for where you are at the present moment, living in the present moment. That's all you really have. What I would tell others, which I'm grateful for this show because so many people I know are going through things. I'm the type of person, if I know you're depressed, I don't let you sit in your depression. So if my daughter or my friends or something, I'm like, no, you're not getting down, we're going out.
Yeah, that's a good friend.
I do not allow people to lay in their depression because they're thinking things that are sometimes are not actually so.
Do you know they're depressed?
Yeah, they'll share it with me. You know, I don't have a bunch of people in my life, and I'm fine with that.
Well, listen, let me ask you this. And Mike, you can piggyback on this as well, and you can finish up. What do you think are some of the main things that are going on today that's actually making people depressed?
I have a list.
Bernard, where's the list?
I do. Okay.
My number one thing is hopelessness.
Okay.
Society is presenting a lot of hopelessness. So if I'm hopeless, what I got to lose?
I can dig it. Go ahead.
All right. We need social media breaks. We're constantly on the phone, we're constantly doing this and that, and social media portrays things to people that everybody's happy, and if you're having a down day, you're sad because this person's happy, and you're wondering why they're so happy. God, why am I not happy? Why don't I have what they have? We need social media breaks, especially if you're going through things. Get off of social media. I don't care for how long, you can go back, get off of social media. The next thing is people jumping into. We can only take so much. You know, you love people, but you also have to remember that you're a person as well. You can't take on everybody else's problems because their problems start to psychologically mess with you. And then it makes you sad. And I learned that from experience. The other thing is fear of change. I was the biggest person that was scared of change. My life was completely changed. You know, I went through a horrific divorce, which completely changed my life. However, it taught me so many things in life that you can't be scared of what tomorrow holds. You have to be able to move forward and realize the past is the past. You also have to let people go. You just completely do. Friends, family, whoever it is. Just because they're your family, if they leave your life, let them go. I am not a person who chases. You want to talk to me, we're fine. I do not chase people.
You know, Melissa, is this yours?
Absolutely.
The reason I'm saying this, Bernard and Mike, because I'm listening to her. She's a therapist.
I'm not.
I thought that
I'm just experienced.
No, but you, first and foremost.
That's what I said, we're the professional.
No, you're absolutely right. But let me say something. When you look at the majority of pastors, they're former pimps, drug addicts, drug users, because they seen the bottom, they seen the gift that God had grabbed them out of there, and they felt as though if there's anybody better to tell the testimony, it is somebody who's been on the other side. So when I hear you speak, oh my Lord, it's like, I want that list, because that list is powerful. So I didn't mean to interrupt your list, but that's what I was feeling.
So fear of change. I lost a job, or I didn't lose a job. I was with the company for 17 years and it closed. And it completely shattered who I was. I had no idea who I was after that because that was my job for 17 years. I was the boss. I could do whatever I wanted to do, whatever. I could curse people out. Not that that's good. I could do whatever I wanted.
You got used to that
Listen,
lifestyle.
I got used to it and the money was okay too.
Was you bringing it home tonight?
And the money was okay too.
Oh, okay.
But when that job shut down, something inside of me. And Q, I call him Q. He had to be a little rude to me. Sometimes people got to be rude to you in order for you to get the message. You're crying over a job that will replace you. And so it stuck with me. It was just like, you can get another job. And I did. I got another job, making more money. But I felt like this part of me was over because I was so scared of what this part was going to do.
Right.
People had to realize that life is going to go through things and you just got to roll with the punches. You know, and then the last final thing that I'll say is people feel you. You have to really, your husband's going to feel you, your wife is going to feel you, your kids are going to feel you, your mom's going to feel you, your friends are going to feel you. People are going to feel you.
Yes.
And you have to be okay with them failing in certain areas and keep moving. Don't get stuck with the failure that the person did to you. Everybody's going to fail you. Your kids are going to grow up. They're going to hurt you in ways you never thought they were going to hurt you. You know, your sister's going to do something. Somebody's going to stop talking to you. You cannot die with what that person did to you. You have to keep moving and smile anyway.
Oh, man. I don't know. I'm listening to Melissa, and I'm saying to myself, Melissa, thank you for speaking your testimony because we are in times where people are hurt. There's people right now watching this in their house by themselves. Got bills up to their neck. They just lost their job. They feel like family, the family that they thought. And they're feeling broken down. So I'm hoping that the words and the testimony that is being brought here tonight, if it saves and touches one person, we did our job. But I also know that we are not here without the grace of God. And on that note, I want to play this last testimony.
What disables you from work, from being productive, from being successful, from being a contributing part of society as a parent, as a kid, as a boss, as an employee, as a business owner. The number one thing that is keeping people disabled from their potential and their ability is depression. Listen, some people have a chemical imbalance and there are treatments for that. And I endorse the medical treatments for diseases that are of the brain. But we can change our brains, and we can impact our brains with the Word of God, because Jesus is our healer, and either He really heals or He doesn't. And if He really heals, and He's the same yesterday, today, forever, which He is, He does and He is, then we can believe that He can heal us of mental illness too. He can heal us of depression, He can heal us of anxiety. But here's His number one method of healing us from anxiety and depression, and that is perspective. Focusing on what we have, what we have, what we have, what we have. What was the first commandment? Look, Adam and Eve, eat freely from all these trees. The first commandment was to focus on what they had. And the curse of unhappiness and the curse of sin and the curse of bondage and the curse of being separated from God, all of that came because Adam and Eve focused on what they didn't have rather than what they did have. Today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait till next month. Don't wait till the next paycheck. Don't wait for the next bonus, the next increase, the next good thing that comes into your life. Stop right now. And today, start focusing on what God has given you. Start focusing on what you have, what you have, what you have, what you have, what you have. You will become thankful, which creates happiness. Gratitude is the parent of happiness. Gratitude is the parent. Happiness is the child. Gratitude is the parent that gives birth to the child. Thankful, thank you, Jesus, for breath, life. Thank you for our family. Thank you for the word. Thank you for the promises. Thank you for the Holy Spirit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for healing. Thank you for saving me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You didn't reject me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You didn't send me help. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You sent somebody across my path. Thank you for sending that other person across my path. Thank you for buying me some time, Lord. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for not judging me. Thank you for not condemning me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your goodness and mercy. Whoa, I'm starting to make myself happy. Because gratitude is the parent of happiness. It's time for all of us to become parents. It's time for all of us to have some kids. And the kids you can give birth to is happiness.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's.
Now, let me say this.
Yeah.
Where I come from, or I come from, I want to thank him. I thank you. You called me and asked me to come.
Sure.
And so you brought enlightenment to my life. Can I give it to him to come to you? I'm going straight to you.
But just know where I got it from.
But that's okay.
Oh, no, and I appreciate
So for me tonight, you're the guy, you're the guy.
No, I appreciate exactly what you're saying, and I know exactly from the fluid and the yoke that you're coming with that. And I greatly appreciate
taking
that.
nothing away from there. But right here, right now, you call me out of the clear blue sky, we connected.
Right, and I appreciate that, Mike. We've always corresponded. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say something right now. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, if for some reason if you have any type of suicidal thoughts or you just need someone to talk to because you're feeling depressed, they have a 1-800 number. It's 800-273-TALK. That's 800-273-TALK. TALK is, the numbers is 8255. So if you want to look at the whole number, it's 800-273-8255. They are available 24/7. So if you need somebody to talk to, or you feel like you're getting certain type of depressed feelings and you're in this depression state, please give them a call and then let me know. Well, Melissa in that book. Okay, guys, you have your last word, and then Melissa, you have your last word.
I'm real happy that Mike invited me. I'm glad to meet Melissa and open a couple of doors for me. Come back again. Thanks.
I'm also thankful for Mike having me on. Thought I was going to have like stage fright. Never done this before, and I'm like, leave my daughter this time so she can tell me how I look. I don't know how I look, but
Well, you did fine. Hey, Bernard, how did you do?
But I'm really, really thankful for this opportunity. I do pray that it actually touch somebody and help somebody. I did speak a lot about what I do, but I do believe in medication. I do need people to take medication. I strongly encourage it if you need it. But I do suggest to everybody who's going through, you don't need a bunch of people around you to have a fulfilled life. I don't have a bunch of friends, but I have the right amount of friends who are loyal to me. And so if there's somebody that when you're going through your storm who, all they want to do is take you out, I do take my friends out, but they also have to be able to be there to hold your hand. Sometimes it's not what we say, it's just being there. And so you have to keep people around you who help you in these storms and realize not everybody is a part of your journey. You got to keep moving. Yes. And if they're not a part of your journey anymore, it was God's will that they moved on from your life. You need somebody, like Mike said, called a prevention. I'm tagged in this thing. I think I'll always I'm being serious when I say that.
Because
if you inbox me, I won't allow people to pour their whole life into me. However, I will talk to anybody because I went through what I went through to be able to tell somebody else.
Yes.
I truly believe that. And so if there's anything that I said that, if you want a little bit more information on, I'm happy inboxing me, whatever. Again, this book helped me tremendously. It's called Expectation Hangover by Christine Hassler. You gotta just be thankful in the moment, every moment. I can't speak to, everybody's situation, but I can tell you there is light at the end of the tunnel, and more people suffer from depression than you know.
Amen. And I'm gonna end it up on saying this. Imagine yourself in a house where it's flooded. You can't move around that house. And in order for you to be good again, the house has to be clean. And then once you clean that house, you don't realize the gift that you had in that house. And that house is you. It's amazing that there are people who walk around, if their house is dirty, let's get a new house. If the dishes are dirty, let's get some more plates. We want to replace things so bad because it makes us feel good. But you don't realize the gift that's within you. And once you recognize that, you will become anew. And if you can't do it on your own, like I said about the call the suicide prevention hotline, or get in touch with a family member, your pastor, anybody. Mike said Melissa, but Melissa's going to send you right to the professionals. But God bless you all. I want to thank Mike, and I want to thank Melissa for being here on the Hurt Chronicles. And like I said, I hope we help others go along in our journey as well. So God bless you all. Peace. Oh, we got to end up on
Hallelujah.